This is Breaking News.
Good afternoon and thanks for joining us for a special report. I'm Alan Devlin from the CBS New York newsroom. We're going to start here with breaking news at this hour. Mayor Eric Adams announcing today that he's dropping out of the race for re-election, a major shakeup in New York City politics. The decision comes just over a month before voters head to the polls, and it's sending shockwaves through the city's political landscape on both sides of the aisle. The mayor's race now shrinking to a three-man race between frontrunner Zohran Mamdani, former Governor Andrew Cuomo, and Republican hopeful Curtis Sliwa. Mayor Adams posted a video message on social media just minutes ago. Let's take a listen.
Nearly 4 years ago, Gracie Mansion became my home. Who would have thought that a kid from South Jamaica, Queens, growing up with learning disabilities could one day become the mayor of the greatest city in the world? I cannot thank my mother enough for instilling in me the values she lived by. I hope every parent can use my life as an example for their child during challenging moments. Only in America can a story like this be told. When I was elected to serve as your mayor, I said these words: this campaign was never about me. It was about the people of this city, from every neighborhood and background, who had been left behind and believed they would never catch up. This campaign was for the underserved, the marginalized, the abandoned, and betrayed by government. Since then, it has been my honor to be your mayor, and I'm proud to say that we took that victory 4 years ago and turned it into action, making this city better for those who have been failed by government. I felt immense pride serving you every day, and look at what we accomplished together. We built more housing in one term than any administration before us, and removed barriers to build even more. We drove crime down so far that this year we are on track to have fewer shootings and murders than at any point in our city's history. We raised test scores and attendance through bold education reforms. We made record investments that fueled our economy and drove employment to all-time highs. And we lowered costs for working and low-income families, expanding funding for rental vouchers, childcare, and household costs, while eliminating the income tax burden for more than 500,000 New Yorkers. Even so, I know many New Yorkers have yet to feel the full impact of these historic achievements. I know many are still worried about affordability, about safety, and their future here. But trust me when I tell you, what we've started will continue to reach every community in this city. It's not always easy to see the impact of good policy in just 3 years. I also know some remain unsure of me after the unfortunate events surrounding my federal case. I was wrongfully charged because I fought for this city. And if I had to do it again, I would fight for New York again. And yet, despite all we've achieved, I cannot continue my re-election campaign. The constant media speculation about my future and the campaign finance board's decision to withhold millions of dollars have undermined my ability to raise the funds needed for a serious campaign. I hope that over time, New Yorkers will see this city thrive under our leadership, and that policies we put in place should be continued and expanded. I hope you will see that despite the headlines and innuendo, I always put you before me, always. I'm proud of the historic leadership team we built, appointing the first Dominican, Indian, and Filipino deputy mayors, the first woman to serve as fire commissioner and police commissioner, the first Korean commissioner at Small Business Services, the first Spanish speaker to lead the NYPD and DOT, and the first Jewish woman to head the NYPD Intelligence Division. We built leadership that looks like New York. That mattered to me because at my core, I'm still Dorothy Adams' son. Raised with the values she instilled in me, forged in my church and in my community, tested again and again in the fight for justice. Those values, working class values, would never allow me to betray my city. They have always guided me to ask and answer one simple question: how do I help those who need it most? Whoever follows me at City Hall must continue the work we started, lowering the cost of living, investing in quality of life, and staying laser focused on reducing crime and disorder through investments in policing, mental health, substance abuse care, homelessness services, and community-based initiatives. But I must also sound a warning. Extremism is growing in our politics. Our children are being radicalized to hate our city and our country. Political anger is turning into political violence. Too often, insidious forces use local government to advance divisive agendas with little regard for how it hurts everyday New Yorkers. Major change is welcome and necessary, but beware of those who claim the answer to destroy the very system we built together over generations. That is not change, that is chaos. Instead, I urge New Yorkers to choose leaders not by what they promise, but by what they have delivered. Although this is the end of my reelection campaign, it is not the end of my public service. I will continue to fight for this city, as I have for 40 years since the day I joined the NYPD, to make our streets safer and our systems fairer. The quest for justice is far from over. Inequality persists, innocents still suffer. New Yorkers deserve better every single day. And until the end of my term, I will fight for just that. We face the fallout of COVID, a surge in crime, an unprecedented migrant crisis, and economic devastation all at once. And together, we turn things around by listening to everyday people and providing solutions instead of speeches. That gives me hope. That gives us a roadmap to a better future. My fellow New Yorkers, this is your city. Its leaders work for you. I am one of you. My story is your story. I lived the struggle, but I never stopped loving this city. That is why I ran for mayor, to turn my pain into purpose. And I will keep fighting for the city, no matter what, from City Hall or beyond, because I am a New Yorker, and fighting for our city is just what I do. Thank you, and God bless New York.
And there you have it, the 110th mayor of New York City announcing that his re-election campaign is coming to an end. There, in that about 8 or 9 minute video, we heard the mayor go over a number of different things, including touting some successes that he's been through in the last 3.5 or so years about what he's done. Housing, addressing the housing crisis, driving down crime, and of course the education reform that his campaign has been touting and been proud of as this whole situation has continued to roll forward. He also said that affordability needs to remain, and safety as well, remain one of the most important components of whoever walks into Gracie Mansion come next year. Obviously, it will not be Eric Adams at this point. In this announcement, all of this comes after polls reflected significant struggles for his reelection bid. Mayor Adams with high disapproval ratings amongst New Yorkers. Now, while there have been rumors swirling for months and months, many of them covered by CBS News New York, regarding Adams finishing the race or not, in response to these rumors, just weeks ago, Adams' team told CBS News New York he was staunchly focused on re-election. This weekend, however, some started detecting a change in his tone, with him quoted in an interview saying he will make what he called the right decision for New York City. We now know what he believes was the right decision was dropping out of this race. Adams is running as an independent and has been expressing his frustration over how rough it has been to raise necessary campaign funds. He says there's been struggles with getting support from voters, so it's been a toss-up for his campaign, coming in fourth place out of that four-man race, which now, as we understand, has shrunk to a three-man race. Political reporter, CBS News New York's Marcia Kramer joins us now to talk to us a little bit about this. Marcia, are you there?
I am here, and I'd like to make some points to you. First of all, those of us who cover the mayor have seen this coming for at least the last week, when he did not make any campaign appearances. And as recently as Thursday, he started advancing the argument that he was unable to raise enough money to campaign because of decisions made by the Campaign Finance Board. He did it at a press conference on Thursday, where I was in attendance. I also want to point out several points. First of all, if you saw the video of the mayor, he had a picture of his mother next to him. He also had a picture of his mother the day he took the oath of office. So he's beginning and ending his reign at Gracie Mansion with his mother very, very prominent in his thoughts. And the reason for that is that she pushed him to be the best that he could be. And in fact, she used to take him into the polls and show him names on a ballot, which is he credits with giving him his first inkling of a career in public service. Also, in talking about his decision to drop out, you have to also take a look at the polls. He was never able to break double digits. He was always in single digits, running fourth in a field of four. And I guess he determined that the power of incumbency, enabling him to use the bully pulpit to make his case, was just not strong enough to get him to rise in the polls. But, as you said, this sort of sent shockwaves, even though it was anticipated, through the political community. One of his prime opponents, Zohar Mamdani, issued a statement, and I want to read it to you because it says what he's been saying in his campaign. Donald Trump and his billionaire donors might be able to determine Eric Adams and Andrew Cuomo's actions, but they will not dictate this election. New York deserves better than trading in one disgraced, corrupt politician for another. On November 4th, we are going to turn the page on the politics of big money and small ideas and deliver a government every New Yorker can be proud of. Now, you have to look at this statement and realize that now Mamdani realizes that although Curtis Sliwa is in the race, he realizes that Andrew Cuomo is now going to try to make this seem like it's a two-person race. I did reach out to the Cuomo campaign for a statement. The governor himself, former governor himself, told me he's still reading the statement and would get back to us. But he, in the past, has said that no matter how many people have their names on the ballot, people will understand that voting for either him or Mr. Mamdani it's a choice between the two of them, and he's asking people to look at it as a choice between the two of them. And it remains to be seen whether voters are going to agree with that or not. But I think there was a hint, a little bit of a hint, in the mayor's statement when he said, when he dropped out, he said, "I urge New Yorkers to choose leaders not by what they promise, but what they have delivered." And the reason I'm pointing that out to you, Alan, is that in this past several days, the mayor has pointed out that a lot of the promises that Zohar Mamdani has made are undeliverable. For example, on Thursday, when he was talking about Mr. Mamdani, he pointed out that he promised that there would be a rent freeze. And then the mayor said, but he can't deliver on that for everybody because he can't freeze the rent for NYCHA people. He can't freeze the rent for people who live in market rate apartments. He can't freeze the rent for people who live in Mitchell-Lama. What he did say, however, was that Mamdani could freeze the rent on the apartment he lives in, which he said, and I quote, was comical. I also would like to tell you about a statement that Curtis Sliwa issued, saying, his spokesman saying that he's the only candidate who can defeat Mamdani. Our team, our resources, and our funding are unmatched. Most importantly, we have the best solutions to help working people afford to stay in New York City and feel safe. That came from his campaign spokesperson. Also, the governor was very praiseworthy in putting out her statement, pointing out to a number of initiatives that she and the mayor had worked for together. She said that he'd been a good partner in government, and she talked about the housing plan, the City of Yes, mental health services, bringing down crime on the subways and getting guns off the street. And she said, and I quote, "I have been grateful for his partnership. He leaves New York City better than he inherited, and that will always be central to his legacy as mayor." Now, I can also tell you that in the last several months, the mayor has been very reflective of his term in office and his chances of being reelected. He said, I guess 2 months ago, that he'd been walking through City Hall, and he realized that no matter what happens in this election, that his portrait will go up in the halls of City Hall as the second black mayor of the city of New York. And he said he was very proud of the fact that his picture will always be in City Hall. Now, also, I can tell you that over the last several days, there have been rumors that people close to him have been trying to negotiate life after government for the mayor and trying to negotiate a job. There have been all kinds of job offers, all kinds of speculation. I presume that's going to continue. Although the mayor says that this continued speculation of what he was going to do was one of the factors that made it difficult for him to raise money to run for office. I can also tell you that statements from people are pouring into our newsroom. The Reverend Al Sharpton, who was a friend of his for a while, said he was honored that that the mayor appeared on his show last night. And he said, quote, "We've been friends for nearly 35 years, and he helped us establish the National Action Network in 1991. He's been a friend of the National Action Network year in and year out, especially over the last almost 4 years he led New York City. NAN remains focused on continuing our work of making New York City safe, livable, and prosperous for black and brown communities." The one thing also I should point out is that it's too late to have his name taken off the ballot. And so there will be a lot of names on the ballot, people who have not gotten out of the race and some people who have been in the race. And so when voters go to the polls, they're still going to have the choice of the top 3 people who are still running, but also other people who are either running as independent candidates like Paperboy Prince, or people who have taken their names out of contention like Jim Walden. It's going to remain to be seen, however, whether this turns into a 2-person race or if, in fact, Curtis Sliwa is able to make inroads. Now, pundits that I've spoken to say that they believe that the bulk of the votes that have been supporting Mayor Adams would go to Andrew Cuomo, but it's unclear at this point whether or not that's going to be enough for him to be a major contender, because so far, most of the polls have shown Mr. Mamdani with at least a 20-point lead. One more thing I can tell you, Alan, is that the business community is also weighing in. Kathy Wild, the head of the Partnership for New York City, talked about the number of accomplishments that he has done, including increase in jobs and economic output and tax revenues, and an unprecedented record in reducing gun violence and bringing down crime. She also talks about changes to the zoning laws, the housing plan, improvements in sanitation services, education, and public safety. And she said, all will be the record that Mayor Adams leaves behind him. So it's sort of ironic in a sense, because in the last several months, the mayor has been touting his records of achievement over the last 4 years, but it didn't seem to make much of a dent in the polls. But now, when taking himself out of the race, people are now pointing to the achievements he's been trying to talk about for the last several months and saying it's part of a legacy he could be proud of. Alan?
All right, Marsha. Yeah, a lot of information there. The race for Eric Adams specifically is over, but as you said, the race for mayor is far from over at this point. We've still got over a month till Election Day. And like you said there as well, Marsha, we're going to be reviewing the legacy that Eric Adams is leaving behind as he today announces the end of his reelection campaign. We're going to be speaking to his supporters, the people here in New York City that wanted him to serve a second term as mayor. And we're going to undoubtedly get more reaction from the political world, from the business world here in New York on a national scale as well, because everybody has had their eyes on this race for a number of reasons. CBS News New York's coverage of this race and Mayor Eric Adams dropping out does not end here with this stream. We will have much more coming up today around 6 o'clock on CBS News New York, and we'll be back at 11 as well. We'll see you guys then, and we hope to continue to give you the up-breaking news on everything that goes on with this race. I'm Alan.
This has been breaking news.